Hey, hi. This video is going to show you how I installed a spool gun on my Chinese Euro style MIG welder. The spool gun I sourced is cheaper than the one available for my welder from the original supplier. Usually these Chinese welders have limited functionality with respect to the spool gun, and they only provide a voltage to start the motor of the spool gun, feeding the welding wire. Because these Chinese welders all operate in a very competitive space, I assume that the voltage provided to the spool gun is all the same and that any Chinese spool gun would work with any Chinese MIG welder. So here it is already attached to my welder. So the first thing I did is I removed the SB21 9-pin connector to see what wires are utilized. And as expected, it was only 2 wires feeding voltage to the spool gun. Note that all of these Chinese welders will often just try and lock you into their ecosystem by the number of pins on these connectors. You can find corresponding male connectors on Alibaba and other sites. So here I confirm only 2 wires are supplied to the connector. This is the spool gun I bought. It's a 4-pin connector, so it does not match, and I'll have to replace it. I'm removing this is a spool gun cable, and I'm going to cut off the existing connector. In this case, the only wires utilized are the red and blue wire. The white and black wire is not connected to the connector. It's not anything. So I'm just exposing the wires by removing the sheath. Fun stuff. This spool gun I bought off Amazon, and it was significantly cheap, half the price of the spool gun if I bought it from the welding supplier. I think the savings was like $250 Canadian. So it was worth it to me to go through this exercise. So here I'm going to tin the spool gun wires with solder so I can easily weld it to the new connector. And the important thing is just to match those 2 pins with the female one on the welder. I'm not so worried about the polarity to the motor right now because I can reverse the polarity later. Correspondingly, I'm tinning the ends of the connector. That way, when I melt the solder, I can join the 2 together, and it's kind of a tricky exercise if you don't pre-tin them. I'm just cutting a little heat shrink tubing, sliding it on, just to make sure there's no shorts later on. I'm just melting the solder and holding it carefully together. Oh, I'm a bit shaky. Oh, that didn't stick, so I tried again. Doing the other side. Got the 2 pins together now, they're welded on. And with the heat gun, I shrink the heat shrink tubing. Reassembling the connector. Hey, I'm just winging this, so if some of this sounds repetitive, well, that's just the way it's going to be. I think it cost me about 10 or 12 bucks to for that connector that I bought. So here it is now installed on the welder. One of the things you might notice is that when you use it, it's rotating in the wrong direction, and you can see it's rotating in the wrong direction here. You just swap the wires, the red and the blue wire in this case, to the motor on the spool gun, and you can see I have done that. And there you go, it's working correctly. If you choose to do this, I hope it works out well for you. Thank you. Goodbye.